I started working here when I was 7 years old, but I've worked here my whole life, so this is probably the only full-time job I've had.
There's a huge supply of milk to get, but to get it bottled is a big issue.
What we understand, most of the plants that our milk goes to are in the food service industry, and that's kind of what's really thrown them for a loop.
When 70% of the milk product that we produce as farmers goes into food service agencies and processing, all of a sudden this processing facility cannot handle the bottling department of it.
We're seeing a huge influx in milk being bought at the grocery store, but we're not selling milk for purposes like to schools, to university, and we're not exporting a lot. Farmers now all of a sudden don't have an outlet for their milk, and it's not as simple as just changing over the processing line to be all that milk now to go into gallon jugs. It all comes down to supply chain management.
These milk plants, from where, they can't just retool, and you can't shove the volume of milk that was going to the food service industry into the retail. That's how it's been explained to me.
We will get through this as well together.
I feel for the Detroit area, and if you look at all these things on the news all the time, they're all the big coronavirus problems are around the big cities. And I think it's very, very wrong for our governor to limit the rest of the state the way it is when it can all be concentrated regionally.
We thank our farmers for being a critical part of our food supply. And yet right now in Kalamazoo, we're watching numbers that are concerning. Because if we have a growth in Kalamazoo or in a rural part of Michigan, we won't have the kind of hospital systems that can meet a need that a community that is growing out of control. COVID-19 doesn't recognize county line.
If the cows would stop producing at this point in time, I think it would be a good thing. If you could somehow just kind of put the cows into an idle mode for a while, that would be great, but it doesn't work that way. Cows are producing milk day after day after day. So it's about an impossible thing to stop.